Hi, I'm Zendor, and yes, you have been expecting me. I'll be your guide, playing the devil's advocate as we peer into the depths of what keeps us afraid, angry, ignorant, and immobile. You draw your own conclusions. So many times, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And in today's world with so much misinformation keeping us apart, it really does matter how we interact with one another.
Namaste and Inlock Catch, and welcome to this episode of One World in a New World. I'm your host, Zen Benefiel, and as always, please do like, subscribe, share. As you're listening, make a comment, ask a question. We may not answer it immediately. It will get answered, though. And I'd love to invite you to visit planetarycitizens.net, where you can get 3 different one-click free downloads. You don't have to input anything. One of them particularly is called Planetary Citizens, Awakening the Heart of Humanity. It's the basis for all the work that I do, and it encapsulates that understanding of our interconnectedness in ways that you can witness it, see it, and even take part in it. So please do visit the site, download the book, and enjoy it. It's short. You read it in an hour and a half, probably. So that way you'll have something to take with you. Now, this week's guest is Fabian Szulanski. He is a working mate of a dear cohort of mine, Doug Breitbart, and he's also co-written a book with Doug called Transcending Personal Apocalypse: Replace Your Beliefs, Revitalize Your Future. So I'm hoping we'll get a chance to talk about that. Fabian's founding member of the Network First Manifesto. He's a managing director of Being in Systems and co-founder of the Values Foundation. He's also co-creator and catalyst of the postgraduate program in digital business at the University of Cima. It's in Spanish, so I'm horrible. In Buenos Aires, Argentina. He has Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering and was a student in Systems Dynamics as well. So I know we're going to have a great conversation, especially about being in systems. It'll be a great apocalyptic chat. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Fabian, it's great to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you, Zen. It's great being here.
I know that this is going to be a wonderful conversation, and we're going to navigate through it. I know that English is your second language, so I'm informing our audience so that they can have the pause and reflect when you're speaking, so that we have that congruence. Now, your background is phenomenal in the science side of understanding humanity and being in systems and working in the digital space and things of that nature. But I suspect that there was an earlier time in your life that you noticed a deeper connection with life, the world, even things beyond it that you may not have understood at that time. What was that like, and when did that occur? And what
Well, it,
kind of feedback did you get from others in the process?
well, in my early childhood, I enjoyed doing calculations. For instance, how many seconds there are in a year. So that was something that I enjoyed very
Do you do
much.
them in your head?
Yes,
Ah,
yes,
brilliant guy. All right,
yes.
you're one of
And
those
then
polymaths, huh?
more or less, I swallowed two encyclopedias at the age of 7. So I was a little boy with a huge general culture. So when I was 13, I was in second place in a Olympic competition of Scrabble, and I was in second place playing against professionals, against adults, architects, doctors, etc., lawyers,
Wow.
uh, and
What
all
an
kinds.
honor.
So
And yet
yeah,
for, you probably looked at like, what's this kid doing here, right?
yeah, sure. And well, I received stimulation from my parents. They sent me apart from primary school. They sent me since I was 2.5 years old to a place called Collegium Musicum, in which I played and learned percussion and triangles, etc., for learning about or experiencing uh,
Rhythm.
rhythm and harmony, etc.
Right.
So I was exposed to music, and also they I went with them to avant-garde type of museums
Mm-hmm.
from people who were in their top, let's say, divergent thinking and
Right.
creators, artists of all kinds, sculptures
Frankly,
and
I'm envious. I mean, that sounds like a really wonderful. I was a brainiac as a kid too, and my parents, I tested off the charts in the second grade, and my parents didn't know what to do about it. They never
yeah.
told me.
Hmm.
And the reason I found out in my late 30s was because they thought it would go to my head. But I grew up in a small town. There was nothing available. Um, so I became, curious and mischievous.
Yes. No, so that was like a huge positive impulse from my parents to expose me to different expressions, right? Not only intellectual, but also those related to expressive
Sure. Well, and music's the
things,
language of the
right?
soul. That has the rhythm, the cadence, the phrasing, the frequencies, the harmonies beyond
Yeah.
anything, because there's no words necessary. You feel it all.
Yes. And also in the 70s, when I was like a teen, I was listening to British music rather than local Argentinian music.
Right.
And I'm talking about rock, right?
Hmm.
Progressive rock.
Beatles, Stones,
Yes, Queen, but
Queen.
also
Yeah.
symphonic rock like Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and Yes, and
Yes. That's
also
one of my favorites.
Rick Wakeman and Jethro Tull, etc., etc.
Right,
And
right, right.
I also liked Walter Carlos and switch on Bach. So the blending of classical and electronic music. So
Sure.
that is something that started since my early teenager life. So to like domain intersections. So this is a thing that I carry today.
Hmm.
So
Did you ever play professionally?
no, I learned like 6 years, but not with theory, etc., but
Hmm.
with the disciple master relationship with my guitar professor. I learned the mechanics of playing guitar. I didn't do the blah 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 blah.
Right,
Uh,
right, right.
th- that was very boring for me,
Sure.
and I prefer more practitioner like. So
Right,
disciple
right. Or
master
improv.
relationship.
I,
Yeah,
I I played drums since I was a teenager and still do. I love improv, right? The
yeah.
jam, the progressive. I'm more of a progressive drummer than anything because I love to put in fills and be part of the conversation, not a timekeeper.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
And then,
That's
well, that,
boring.
yes, yes, and I tried yes, along my personal evolution and growth to blend the three words called work, play, and learn.
Hmm.
So everything that I should do in life is try to blend those three words in a single one. So that I cannot say that I have been working in things that I didn't like. So because of that lens that I define for things that were going to happen in my life, right?
Sure.
So work, play, learn is something that I thrived and I cheered for happening in my life.
Well, don't you find that that attitude anywhere is a gift, and it's a gift to others in a lot of cases because most people are really having a tough time in doing what they're doing, to be present, to enjoy it, to be happy, to trust others around them to do the right things too. Now, how did you, as you got older and in your teenage years and advancing into the early college, where did you kind of frame your direction? Was it the combination of that inner and outer understanding where you were looking for resonance to lead you forward? And I say that because of your involvement in systems and being, right? That's a
Yeah,
sensitive thing, right?
yes. Well, it was more in the 90s, in the early 90s. After I got my first degree in civil engineering, that was in
Hmm.
transportation, right? The major. I was reading and subscribed to a couple of magazines, and one was called Entrepreneur. So I was browsing through one issue of Entrepreneur, and
Hmm.
I read an article that showed managers training their decision-making capacities in computer simulations. So that caught my curiosity to learn more about that. So I sent a fax to MIT at that time and asking for a sample of that disk for running that simulation here.
Hmm.
And then I got that sample, but together with that,
Now, this was back, I'm guessing, 3.5-inch floppies.
yes,
Okay.
because it was in 1994
Yeah.
or 1993. So I got that 3.5 floppy. It was formatted for Macintosh, so that wasn't so easy to get a Macintosh here. So, but I got access to one, but the remarkable thing is that the disk didn't come alone, but with about 10 pounds of articles and academic
Wow.
papers, etc. So I thought, wow. So it's not only the simulation for training decision makers, but there is a body of knowledge here.
Yeah, support material, right?
Yes. Yes, but it wasn't just the manual for the simulation. It was
Mhm.
articles and articles, and so I self-trained. I read everything, and I become in 1 year and something in a local expert in that material.
Mhm.
That it was system thinking and dynamic modeling. So that was my serendipitous, let's say, path
Well,
because
isn't life, do you find, just a little side note, right? Do you find that life, when you're aware, maybe a bit more aware, and you're looking, you're curious, that the serendipity and synchronistic events show up kind of subtly, but wow, aren't they powerful when you step into them?
yes, And also I enjoyed those time of confluence
Hmm.
when things happen, because I am an eternal, let's say, explorer, and also reading and learning different things, and I like to play and intersect different things.
Sure.
I have done dozens of those domain intersections, right? And but before that, what I was doing was importing things from other countries to Argentina that didn't exist here, and through the Entrepreneur magazine. So that was
Hmm.
before 93. And I imported, for instance, stickers that captured your fingerprints without staining your fingers. And they work as a deterrent for people who weren't, let's say, good guys,
Right.
for
Ne'er do
putting,
wells, as we might call them here.
yes, for would you like to put your finger here? It's just for our and your security, and feeling safe. And if the guy say, no, no, I never put my, uh, okay, thank you so much. It was very nice to having met you,
Right.
and and
Bye-bye.
bye bye, right? And that used
Well,
to
what do
be
you
sold.
think? So if don't mind the interruption. So that is an example of a person's own sense of trustworthiness.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you find that in the world? Are there indicators that you've noticed over time as to, the subtle things? Because in this world, there's all kinds of things and people trying to take, right, in scrupulous ways. And they do it to those unsuspecting. Are there some things that you've found that are indicators for others to maybe watch for and be a little more protective of their own energy?
Well, unfortunately, they are not subtle things. They express very bluntly with ghosting or with bullying or with mobbing, etc.
Sure, sure. Yeah, those are the
So
obvious things.
yeah, but that those are behavioral. But you're
Mhm.
asking for more subtle energy, and that I think is just by sensing the energy that the person emanates.
Sure.
Uh, so
Now we
l-
talk about that. I understand exactly what you're talking about because I'm an empath as well. That's the first thing. I'm a systems feeler, so I feel things
yeah,
before I think them.
yeah,
And hopefully my thinking is aligned with my feelings. Sometimes,
mm,
you can override your feelings with your thinking and then wish you hadn't later. How does that affect the sense? How can, because we're becoming a more sensitized population, planetarily speaking. How
yeah.
do we navigate those layers of sensitivity effectively? What can we do to recognize how to move forward?
Well, that might be part of the body of knowledge of being in systems.
Hmm.
So there are like several dimensions for observing and for being, let's say, paying attention to how people express themselves or as a group, perhaps. There is the expression reading the room when you get inside the room. So sometimes the air in the room can be thick
Right.
because of all the tensions and
Sure.
suspicions, etc., that are happening there, and that uh, is you cannot identify a human sensor for that, so it's not part of the five senses. The capacity of reading a room is something different.
Right.
So
It
perhaps
includes
it's
those, but it's more than them.
yes, and
Uh,
perhaps it's a part of one of our two brains, one of the other two brains that we have, that is the heart and the
just
gut.
two?
Well,
Okay, so here's not contention.
no,
Okay, I'm
no,
not intending to be contentious. So one of the things I learned from indigenous training was that they believe in three brains, the gut, the heart, and the head.
Yes.
And that the gut's the first brain because that's where we feel everything. The heart's where we distill it, and then the head is where we make choices as to what to do with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, how
And
is that in your two brain model? What
no.
about that?
I said with the other two brains. So
Ah,
the other
I'm-
two brains. So
my mistake.
the first is here, and the order doesn't mean importance, right? So the first, the heart, and then the guts. So, and of course, I think that you may define each of the chakras as a brain uh, for
Depending.
perceiving the world, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and
That's
there might
entirely
be
possible
also
because there
the
is a realm in each
yes,
one of those chakras that most of us aren't aware of.
yes, and also perhaps the different meridians that are in
I was
acupuncture.
going to mention that the meridians.
Ca-
I think there's
ca-
another marma is another term, right?
Yeah.
One of my books, Zero to One, Making Our Way Towards a Conscious Civilization. I
Hmm.
break down all the different holistic system. You know, our body is a holistic system made up of subsystems.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
all of those, when they're aligned, wow.
Yes.
Um,
Lately, I have like identified the limitations of system thinking, that it might be useful for different type of challenges in
mhm.
life, but not for other type of challenges. Uh, Especially when you cannot map anything, because the moment you grab the pen, that system changes,
Right.
right? So it becomes obsolete before you start drawing it. So for
Right.
that type of uh, let's say parts interacting, I am not going to say system, because a system is a model of that. So
Well, but let me ask this. Is it possible that in that grabbing of the pen, right, as you're, and I'm speaking of creating, right, the
yes,
process of creating, when you grab that pen and you put it to paper and you draw from that etheric model in your head and you crystallize it on paper, is that not a system function?
well, perhaps it's the moment you touch uh, um, with the point,
Hmm.
that is when wrongness starts, because as you know, every model is wrong. So all models are wrong. Some of them might be
I
useful.
don't, you know, the whole idea of right and wrong just kind of flew out the window a long time
Yeah,
ago. It's nothing's right
yeah,
or wrong. It's how you think about it. Now, if you can step back, what's that process of stepping back from that, not seeing it as right and wrong? Because then we have essentially you're stepping into living in paradox
yeah.
instead, right?
Hmm.
So what's it like in there?
Well, it's part of the creative process, but focus on modeling something.
Hmm.
So it's not divergent creation, but it's a more focused type of creation, and full of inquiry of
Right.
what influences what on, or what depends on what. And what I prefer is to co-model with the person who owns the situation. So I don't prefer working on a cave, and then show the part of the results. And no, but that is not how I think. No,
Yeah. Well, you got
I
to have
prefer,
two, and even in
yeah,
all the, you know, ancient literature, one in particular said, "Where two or more are gathered, there I am also." So
yes,
that I amness that comes into play there through those two is a union,
yes.
right? That energy mixes and produces something hopefully spectacular. Sometimes it doesn't, right?
No, but also what is interesting is that there is instant feedback regarding the co-creation that is
Yeah.
emerging.
Yeah.
So you accelerate that process of creating a model. So any rework that may happen if you work independently is totally slashed away.
Mm-hmm.
If you work with one person or more when you co-create something, right?
Right.
So by 2000, I created a method for accelerating projects that was inspired in an architectural methodology of the 1970s or so that was
Mm-hmm.
called charrette, right? And the charrette was like a little transportation element for carrying all the plans of villages that were going to be built. And they have a very well-defined participatory design with all the stakeholders that were going to be part of the neighborhood to be built.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of the
Kind of makes
meetings,
sense, doesn't it?
yes, of course. So to to be able to work not inside the cave, but to integrate people, to
Sure.
have their instant opinion, their instant feedback of what do they need, what do they like, what would they want, what they wouldn't want to happen there,
Right.
etc. Right? And so thinking about that, I took all the architectural tools from that thing that I read, and I added thinking and managerial stuff inside. So, and I thought, well, project management should include this as an external thing for accelerating projects. So by doing that intersection, then I started to work on that of accelerating some projects that usually they suffer from rework and the resources that were involved due to that, right?
Right. Well, it makes sense. One of the things that um, about the same 2001, I was in Chile. I gave a community project management workshop
Yeah,
to a group of people in Valparaiso. And it was of course, my Spanish wasn't all that great. I did have um,
a translator.
I had three actually,
Mm.
and
Yeah,
we had a great time. I mean, it really made it fun because my Spanish started to come back a little bit. I could crack some jokes and things like that. But I'm just a gringo down there trying to share, some American knowledge. Although it was much different because as you went into the being in systems, I've always had that let's figure out how we can all work together cooperatively to do this huge thing. Because if we can take a piece of it that is a particular way for us to share our skills and talents, right? Because our skills and talents don't apply to everything. We've got a zeroed in, target of where they can be applied. When you can draw on that in a systems perspective, then it all just coalesces with some, oftentimes, initially, probably takes a little effort, but eventually, when you practice that, it all just kind of just seems to congeal. Did you find that to be true?
yes, but I also try to embody an abundant mindset.
Hmm.
So I try to not identify boundaries for applying how do
Right.
we feel, think, etc.
Sure.
Um, I forgetting about the income, right? Just for applying things, even if you want to have business cases that you
Right.
aren't charging for those business cases, they can apply everywhere. So that's the beauty of working with the first principles always.
Sure.
And there is also a nice blend because Doug is different from me and I am different from Doug and both of us are different from Joanna, etc. So,
Mhm.
but it's the synergy between the three of us what works. So There
And
are,
that's the key word, the synergy, right? You
yes,
just let it work and you find your way through that without boundaries, right? It's
yeah,
just like you have a goal and you all just kind of figure out, okay, this is how I can contribute, and another person does that. And, kind of like, I had the experience with you just a few days ago and one of your proof of concept meetings and trying to do something similar to this. It was really enjoyable, different, right? Now, speaking of being different, coming out of COVID, the world turning into this um, VUCA state, if you will.
hmm
How do you see the being in systems helping to navigate this time with the existing leadership structures that are generally inside businesses and corporations and global systems? Or have you got to that level yet?
Well, we didn't delve helping large corporations, but for all type of leaders, I suspect most of them may still be anchored to the metaphor of navigating with a ship,
Command and control.
s- setting your North Star and navigating and correct if there is any deviation towards that fixed objective.
Mhm.
And a more suited metaphor could be kite surfing, because that kite, due to the wind, can go elsewhere.
Right,
You and you don't know in advance where it's going to blow the wind, right? And then the capacities, the skills that you need for that aren't the same as navigating a boat, but you need to be more adaptive, flexible,
sure.
nimble, and also having a very good state, right? And
Well, you've got to
fitness.
be present, right? That
Yes.
centered,
Uh,
unattached to
uh,
what's happening next.
yeah. And the only thing that matters is the present moment. And that
Right.
is one of the premises of being in systems, is
Hmm.
what is happening now in the present moment. So that
That
metaphors
sounds to
speak.
it to one that doesn't really understand all of this. That's like it sounds kind of crazy, right? Being in the now. What does that mean? Right. This is the kind of arguments that came in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and lessened in the 2000s and 10s. But now it's like, well, gosh, that seems to be ubiquitous in the conversations everywhere.
Yes.
We do that, and or at least the talk of it. How do you see it actually becoming present, no pun intended,
Hmm.
in the world and in the communities and the organizations, the institutions? Do you see this happening? Um,
Depending on the organization, if the organization is more technology application oriented. So they are very used to prototyping minimum viable products and experiment, etc. So they iterate and then test and validate, etc. So it's not that you build a huge product and then you launch the big product to the market. You just validate that your minimum viable
right. It's like
ideas.
micro products that you put together that create the dots along the line that eventually
Yeah,
reaches a goal.
yes, but the goal is also a moving target.
Yeah,
So, right? So you need to be a very good sensor with S in order to be able to see
I'm glad you
the
made that distinction. Right,
where yes, where the goal is going, right?
right.
And even not predict. I abhor that word. I wish it would be out of the dictionary. But to anticipate or estimate or forecast, etc., but not predict, please.
Well,
I,
every time you make a prediction, it's wrong,
yeah,
right? How many times have we had all these different predictions around the world about this or that happening? And
Yes.
Most of them never happen. It's like fear, right? 99.9% of them never happen. So why do
Yeah.
we continue to have these fearful emotional states? Why do
Well,
you,
that brings us to the values foundation
right?
that in our conversations that we had years of conversations with Doug, we concluded that there are two very strong attractors in life. One is called fear, and the other is called love.
Mm,
So, if you ask deep enough, you always reach to one of the two. And unfortunately, human beings are wired to react faster to
true.
fear than to love. So
Oh,
there is,
absolutely. And bad
right?
news travels faster, right? And I had an old, wise, mixed blood Cherokee friend when I was quite younger. Says, my first show in the 90s, he says, fear is just false evidence appearing real.
Hmm.
What we need to do is free every anxious reaction. And I piped up, I said, yeah, but most of the time we just F everything and run. So,
Well, I always say that when you are watching something getting on fire, that you have two things to do. One is to put the fire off, but then you need to design a preventive plan,
right. Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Now,
that doesn't happen anymore in the future, right?
hopefully, uh,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes there's recurring, and these are one of the things in industry today, that these recurring situations that seem to pop up, and the systems being awry to begin with, right? The fragmentation, especially with AI being prevalent now and accelerating everything. Well, most of these systems are fragmented to begin with. They're not connected internally within organizations. What do you think is the options that we have to correct that?
Well, first, before installing anything, you need to implant in the culture to prepare the culture for implementing AI afterwards. When you first install and try then to implant in the human culture, you may be doomed to fail. So, and there are many examples of that. For instance, the SAS software giant
Yeah.
from Germany, there were many installations, tens of millions of dollars spent and lost, and then left into a drawer because people didn't want to use that. So,
Well,
so,
the
so
human
they did,
element was missing, right?
yeah,
That was now. Um, I don't know if you're aware of this or not. I partnered with an AI programmer of 30 plus years. It's a global strategist, thinker, systems wide, and has consulted at that level. Now, we've recognized we had a 5 year conversation via LinkedIn and just multiple exchanges about leadership, organization, what the future holds, and how we can navigate through it.
yes,
And the human element was the focus, right?
yeah.
Because without the human element, the machine precision doesn't go anywhere. Now, what he's created, it's called the AI Universal Engine. It bridges that world, right? Because especially with, now this is for larger organizations that have enough data for it to analyze.
Yeah,
In the systems, there are trigger words that are fear-based, right? So
yeah,
you can actually analyze the fear level in the organization as friction points, and then address those while you're addressing the forward momentum. And the engine itself does 10,000 scenarios. Once it decides, okay, this is the correct path based on the real-time, real-world information available, and so that decision is made, then it tests it against 10,000 different scenarios to make sure. And then it also looks at the friction points within the organization. So when that decision is that strategy for the forward movement is made, then there's the backup for the leadership in the organization. Say, okay, here's the friction points that we need to address to build the trust again, to create community, not just a company, and to
Yeah.
actually synergize, we used that word earlier, the workforce with the strategy. Now, those are the things that's big. I haven't heard of any other platform system instrument that combines those two yet. There's some talk about it. There's even a guy, a Belgian, I think, that just wrote a book about um, the things the systems that need to be present in the future AI
Hmm.
component, tools, right?
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, okay, this is great because we've got it all. And the joy of being able to do that still is thwarted by the, oh my gosh, does it work? I don't know. Is it another AI tool? And so there's this resistance because of the unknown factor.
Yes. And also, when one thinks about how all the AA systems feed themselves in order
Well,
to,
those are the LLMs, right? So
yes, the LLMs,
it's a
which,
different, totally
but
different system than what
yes,
I'm talking about with the engine. But you're right. The recursive system or recursive function in
yeah.
them continues to query itself. Gosh, what do we do?
Hmm.
Right? We have the same recursive function. We just haven't called it such.
Yeah. Yes. What I was, let's say, challenging was the real truth embedded in those zillions of information pieces that
Mhm.
are feeding those LLMs for the conclusions that those engines are taking, are
There's a
making,
lot of
right?
drift.
Yes, and also biases and
Sure.
things that can hallucinate in a bad way. And so there is an issue of governance that is filling all
Oh,
the
but
titles
it's
of
like,
media, right?
but it's human, right? This is aggregated human
Yes,
produced information. So how
of
can we
course.
expect it to be precise,
Yeah.
right? Because it's got everything in there and it's going to drift. It's going to be looking and oh, that makes sense. I'm going to throw it up there and see if it works. Now, how do we, and
And
even all of them say, look, for important stuff, check your data. Don't trust
mhm,
us.
yeah,
Now,
but
why can't humans do that?
the data itself may be biased
Right.
and may have an agenda of a
Sure.
human. Or
Right.
we don't know if data in the future can have a bias of the AI itself.
Right. And then you've got the other systems like the engine where there's no human input. It's just reading and analyzing the data that's
Yeah.
available, which is a lot cleaner.
Yeah, more or less, uh, there is difference between observed information, perceived information, and reported information, right? So the
Yeah,
reported
I'm going to tell you
data,
the truth, but I'm not going to tell you all of it. Right.
yeah, the reported has loads of office politics inside.
Right.
So how can you trust that? So all
Well,
people
that's why
say,
you rely on an instrument that doesn't need that actually analyzes that and said, here's what you're all saying.
yes, but it mirrors things that cannot be trusted because of all
Potentially, but
the biases.
well, true. But what it does, it exposes those things for greater observation, for query, for discernment, right? And for building trust within the organization as you're all talking about it simultaneously to ascertain what the truth really is. Now, that takes a level, speaking of honesty,
Yeah,
of authentic, open, gut feeling communication that most of us don't know how to do. and often comes out curt, harsh, blunt, offensive to others
Yeah.
because we've never done it before. Now, how does that in being in systems, how do you guys handle that?
Well, we try to go into dimensions that are, let's say, one dimension is tied to rationality,
Hmm.
then other dimension is tied to emotions, and the way of reading, being able to read and to identify uh, rationality on knowledge or data or whatever way it's organized,
Right.
that rationality together with the sensing of the emotional part. So you can bridge and read that as probably is not so, let's say, true.
Well,
What?
you can feel the tension,
Yeah.
right? Truth doesn't have tension.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that is a way of feeling emotional and analytical,
Hmm.
just with those two. And then how grounded is that?
Right.
Are there, let's say, predecessors that have been working on the same? So is there some previous evidence, or is just the late or only one evidence of that?
Right.
So that is like the level of grounding. So that is another inquiry.
Now,
And
in the level of grounding, right? I mentioned truth doesn't have tension, right? It doesn't
Mhm.
at the moment. What often happens is disagreement with it, right? There because of the bias, the prejudice, whatever
Yeah,
conditions the individual have brought into that present moment that they haven't left behind, which is really
yeah.
hard to do, right? I got to
Well,
say.
sometimes what is needed is to work with the shadows of people
Hmm.
out of, so to leave some time, not for escaping the present moment, but in parallel to form a separate molecule of that living organism that is the company,
Right.
and
Or a
in,
growth, right? A
yes,
temporary growth.
yes, yes, and observe which are the shadows, or investigate together with the person that is.
Now, by shadows, define that a bit more, if you would.
Well, I think that most people have their own shadows that they need to try to dissolve them in order to have a more harmonic life.
Mhm. So these
Because
shadows and are things that baggage we drag with us from the past that doesn't serve the present or the future.
yeah,
And, you
that
know,
they manifest in the present moment, but they may come from before,
oh, sure. And
right?
who doesn't have those, right?
No, no, it's
Yeah.
common. It's
Yeah.
you
Yeah. We all
you
have them. And oftentimes we're afraid to admit that we have them because we appear less in our own eyes, and our society is built on codependence. We don't want other people to think less of us, right?
yeah.
And we're self-deprecating enough. You got 70,000 thoughts a day, probably three quarters, seven eighths of them are self-deprecating. How do you get through those? How do you draw those out? Because those, I think, are organizational destroyers.
Yes, but that is part of the human beingness.
Absolutely.
You cannot do a surgical operation to extract that from the scene, right? So
No.
humans
You
are
have to
humans.
embrace it somehow, right? And say,
Yeah,
"Oh, I understand that's okay. Can you suspend that for just a moment and consider
yeah,
this maybe?"
yes, it becomes part of the emergent conversations that
Mhm.
are happening, and trying, okay, let's put that in a drawer for now, and let's go on with this other part of our conversation. And then when the moment arrives, then the collective uh, goes to that other drawer, and then that need is tackled and dissolved, perhaps not solved, but dissolved or alleviated or mitigated.
Right.
Because even with one human being, that's a wicked system, right? So it's uber complex.
Can be.
So you cannot solve it. You might alleviate some of the symptoms, etc., but or mitigate some of them.
Right. Well, it's an inside job, right? Each person that, and a lot of times we aren't aware of what we're dragging forward until something happens and we get triggered.
Yeah.
Now, in those
Yeah.
trigger moments, what do you do?
Well, I am a good friend of psychologists and a social psychologist, both
Mhm.
degrees, and he told me, well, first you try helping that person. Don't believe that you are so important that you can harm that person. So first try to help and keep that, let's say that person erupts in something aggressive against other
Mhm.
person. Okay, first try to help, and then if needed, bring a professional and suggest that person to go uh, for a short meeting with that professional and keeping that person out of the space for a certain time. And
Right.
then he's always invited to come back. But
Sure. Well, and in the workplace, that's an appropriate action, and most of the time it's adhered to.
yeah,
Real life, outside those walls, different story.
yeah,
The same still applies though. And do you find that you mentioned earlier fear and love? I think
yeah.
it's just love and the resistance to it. I don't
Mm,
think there's any, we can call it fear, but there's just that lack of openness, the closedness that we have to love because it's an unknown experience. It feels too free for most
yeah.
of us, right? And but so that creates kind of that fear of the unknown too. How do you bring love into the conversations and the expressions and the
Well,
demonstrations?
by being empathic, by listening. So deep listening, you are demonstrating empathy, you are demonstrating love
Mhm.
and appreciation to what the other person is sharing. So that's a very direct way of expressing love and not interrupting, just giving the person the time, even allowing that person to be silent for a few seconds and don't uh, inter interject
Right.
your thoughts inside. So respect
Now, how do
the
there's
the
different
flow.
kinds of personalities, different ways of listening, different ways of perceiving. If you're in New York, the two are talking simultaneously and you're both understanding each other and there's no problem, right?
Yeah,
And in other places, there's this really, I want to speak really slow so that I'm heard and understood. And then you got somebody else that doesn't work that way, and they're constantly seeming to interrupt, right?
yeah.
Because that's not how they're built. Now, how do you address those different communication styles?
Well, perhaps asking both of those different types to be aware of the other person communication style. So both of them are going to do their best in having a common protocol for
Hmm.
communicating better among themselves. If if you don't do anything, they are going to clash. So they need some previous onboarding regarding that difference in communication
Right.
styles. So they both are aware of that possible conflict that may happen at the conversational level, right?
Sure. Well, you can imagine this is 248 conversations, apocalyptic chats that I've had, and you can imagine the span of communication styles in that. And I have to
Yeah,
admit, I haven't always been fully present to recognize initially, I get it as we move through, but those faux pas of seeming invasion, not intentional, right? But the other party feels like they're kind of being invaded when you speak over them or interrupt them. So the necessity for establishing the parameters, understanding each other. Do you do any prep work to understand communication styles before you step into the room, or is it in process?
No, I try to interact before the conversation with people that are going to participate, or
Hmm.
I know those people from years before the meeting. So
That
I am
helps.
yes, so I am aware of their communication styles and protocols. But everything, in my opinion, should happen before the conversation. Some sharing of the initial conditions of new people that are going to interact with the
Hmm.
others, then they should know that that person preferences are different from theirs and communication style, and not take as an offense if some person is
It's just different.
mildly interrupting,
Yeah.
but that can be his style, and you shouldn't be police-like to no,
Right.
don't
And we
interrupt.
got to be adaptable too, right? That
Yeah,
we
sure.
find some place in the middle. One of the, I don't know what it's like in South America, but I know in the States, we've got all kinds of assessments and surveys. And the one that comes to mind in particular is the DISC assessment,
Yeah,
which is made to determine your communication and problem solving preferences.
yeah. Well, in my case, I don't like those type of taxonomies in general. I don't like colors. I don't like taxonomies. So all the people in the integral
Colby, have you ever tried
movement,
Yo Dolphin?
yes, uh, and also the spiral dynamics, etc., that are different colors or the requisite organization. So all those form type of people who look over their shoulders to others. Oh, you are so blue. You are so I don't know, red
Well, don't
or
we want our proclivities as human beings is to categorize title, name,
yes, but
you
no,
know. I had a conversation with Jeff Mara on the Jeff Mara podcast because I've had a lot of really esoteric, weird shit happen. And beings that I've spoken with and met, never asked a name, never sought a title, didn't care where they were from. It was just the frequency that they exhibited that let me know where I stood and where
yeah,
they were, because there's that frequency acknowledgement, I guess, for lack of a better. And so he asked me, well, did you ever ask their name? I said, no, why? And he was puzzled. There was a bunch of comments afterwards that thought I was nuts because I didn't ask. And there was a few who said, well, why would you? Right? If you trust yourself and what you're experiencing and you're having a conversation, why do you want to muddy it with labels and titles and all those kinds of
yeah,
things that just rank and file it, which takes you outside of the present?
yeah. And what I like is being unclassifiable. So I like fooling people. And I was invited to a conversation that wasn't recorded, but we were laughing because the other person who was there interviewing me, he was also sharing that he is kind of generalist with many different interests.
Hmm.
And so I told him, well, it's my same situation. And I sometimes like to say that I am a ham and cheese sandwich, let's say producer or manufacturer.
Right.
So
Right.
people can understand me what I am doing. Because if I try to describe all the different things that I am into, then either they escape away or they don't
Right.
understand.
Right. Well, and we had kind of a prelim conversation before, going live about that kind of stuff. And that can really, if your listener or your cohort doesn't have a direct experience or is unaware or is more of a generalist and you get into a specific area, it's hard for them to follow. And oftentimes they feel inadequate and get lost and then have an adverse reaction to that rather than responding to it,
Hmm.
right? Just saying, okay, instead of stating, I don't understand that. I'm not there yet. Help me out, right? Most people tend to arrive with an ego, and they don't want to admit they don't know shit, right? So
Yeah.
what do you do in those kind of situations when you feel that tension that exists in that moment?
Well, I first ask what is their need. So everything that I'm going to contribute from different perspectives are going to be in service to their needs.
Mm,
So that way they are always going to feel resonance, even if I come from different perspectives, that I
sure.
am in service to them.
Right.
So in that way, I dissolve that type of tension.
Absolutely. And you have to speak it. You can't just assume it, right?
Sure,
This
sure.
is, we kind of go through lives assuming a lot of things without asking for clarity. It's like active listening, right?
Yeah.
We hear stuff, and we think we understand it. We don't check, and we end up not really understanding it and making mistakes or not mistakes, making less than,
Misunderstandings.
yeah, misunderstanding and less than productive choices and activities as a result.
Yeah, sure. Yes, there is a famous poster of project management of the different things that different players imagine for the object that a client asks a company to be designed and built.
Right.
And so there was a
We're all
hammock.
feeling the elephant, right? And describing different
Yes,
parts of it.
yes, or that person who sees a number six and the other, uh, for him he's a number nine. So
Right.
the thing is the same, but they perceive it in from different angles, right? So
Sure. So how do you find this methodology weaving itself into the world and the benefits that it has and the rapid deployment that's necessary to get us out of this current fragmented state that we're in? Because we continue this way, the fragmentation is going to do more to harm than to help us.
yes, and something that is pervasive these days is closeness to results. So people are less with less energy to
Hmm.
get close to people who are offering things that take too long. Or, for instance, you say, well, if I help you make better decisions, probably you are going to get better outcomes. And if you are getting, uh, if you are going to go into
Hmm.
to make better outcomes, you are going to get better results, and therefore your reputation we're going to, and then your bonuses are going to. So, if you make all that chain that sets a distance from interventions to results, then people don't like that very much. That is the way people are buying services these days. So
Well, yeah, it's the, sell them sick, sell them well.
yeah, yes. So the idea is always offering things to people who want to buy, rather to try to impose
Hmm.
things to people that they want to buy that.
Well, yeah, I mean, doesn't it make sense, to instead of making something that you just have an idea about and you think will sell, why not look at what people are asking for,
Yeah,
what they're thirsty for, what their needs are, and
yeah,
address it from that place? And maybe that might move us toward more being planetary citizens where we're caring for each other and the planet
yeah.
rather than, the whole profit over people and planet
Yeah, what
mentality
I
that
always
exists.
say is to imagine a luxury shoe manufacturer traveling to the jungle and trying to sell
Right.
his best products there. He's not going to sell even one shoe there.
No. No. Well, he might, but it'll certainly be used for something that they didn't
Yes,
intend.
for drinking water, perhaps,
Yeah, something,
as a container.
storage. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
So, what what do you think it is? You've given some wonderful advice and peers into how to be in systems and how to be, period. Right? Thank you for that. It's been wonderful. Corroborative for many, I'm sure, because we all sense that. We just don't necessarily know how to articulate it. Now, in the future, or as a parting gift to our audience, what would you say is one of the best things that an individual can do, either inside an organization or outside, to help them be more present, be more available, more loving, even?
Well, I would suggest people uh, should thrive for physical, mental, and relational health. So
Balance, right?
that holistic view of wellness, if they focus on that, the conclusion is going to be that they are going to be better in all the relationships that they are going to be part of, and therefore be more present in in their lives. And if they engage in movement, for instance, I would advise them to go with other people, so their relational capital is going to be increased, and therefore for them the only way of being would be belonging, and as we say here, to put the t-shirt on, the organizational t-shirt on, and to sweat it, and to be part of that higher purpose than ours as individuals, right?
Right.
But always uh, first try to thrive being healthy but holistically. So that would be my best advice, because it also impacts your mind
Right.
and and your rationality, right? And
What I hear you saying is about alignment and coherence.
yes, and always do what you say, and align what you say with what you think and with what you believe, as we share with Doug in our little book.
It's awesome.
Hmm.
David, this is just it's been a wonderful conversation. I feel like we're brothers from different mothers, and um, because it's amazing how such distance. I mean, here we are, probably 8,000 miles away from each other, and still it seems like we're talking the same language.
Yeah, yeah, that is what resonance manifests, right?
I am so honored to feel that resonance with you. And I know that our audience will have that same experience in just listening. So I really appreciate what you've been able to bring and the work that you're doing. Um, and especially, it's a joy to, talk with someone that's working with Douglas. I really
Yeah,
love that guy. I just,
yes, it's
he's wonderful. Um,
yes, he's like a beacon, right? And
yeah,
like a lighthouse.
yeah, very
Hmm.
much so. We should all
Thank you
do
very
so.
much. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Namaste and in la catch. And thank you for sticking with us for this episode of One World in a New World. And I would again ask you, please do subscribe, like, share, ask a question. If it's burning, especially, let us help put it out. Please do participate. And by all means, also visit planetarycitizens.net and pick up your free books. There's Perpetual Peace Science. It's a Russian English translation of a Russian science book. There's Planetary Citizens Awakening the Heart of Humanity, and there's also Coherence, From Hydrogen to Humanity. One-click downloads. It's not about the money. It's about service to others. And I hope you'll enjoy it. And for Fabian and myself, well, not for Fabian. I'm sure he's glad that he's been here. But for me, I'll see you next time. Thanks for showing up.
All right, let's talk about business strategy. Is yours built for a world that's already gone? Turns out, a lot of businesses are losing over half their potential profit. Why? Hidden inefficiencies.
So what if you could stop just guessing about the future and actually start engineering it? Well, the key is what's called a perceptual pivot. It's a whole new way of thinking. So instead of chasing control, you're building for coherence and, more importantly, resilience.
And this new approach is powered by something called the AI'd Universal Engine.
The idea behind it is the aura of two minds. Basically, human vision plus machine intelligence.
You get decades of human strategic experience paired with hyper-precise AI, the best of both worlds.
So how does it actually work? A key feature is its 10,000 variations intelligence engine.
The benefit? You can de-risk big decisions and basically engineer immunity to market shocks. Then there's the diagnostic engine. It gets to the root cause of problems in days, not months.
This means you can instantly find major financial leaks and get some real engineered certainty. Okay, but how does this stack up against traditional consulting? Let's take a look.
For starters, you get insights up to 70% faster. That's a huge deal.
And that speed means you're saving a ton of money. We're talking around 60%. But the real game changer is the ROI. Check out this example for a mid-sized company. As you can see, the difference in the projected return, well, it's not even close.
Yep, that's a return on investment that is 6 times higher. Let that sink in.
How? By being faster. Getting your strategy 85 days sooner saves thousands in operational leakage alone.
Plus, it identifies those huge black swan risks that manual analysis almost always misses. The place to start is with a 10K stress test audit. Find out what it takes to survive. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about advice, it's about buying back your time.